Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video, I'm out in the same spot I was at in the prior videos, basically to continue working on the setup of my Crua Koala Full Set. Now last time I left, it was really a first opportunity for me to take a look at this set and get my eyeballs on it to see what was going to work and not going to work and the little things that I needed to do in order to bring it around for an upcoming backpacking trip. Now the weather's been kind of dodgy for the past week, so I had a great opportunity in my house to kind of go through that kit a little bit further and come up with what I think is going to be the absolute perfect solution. So the key today being that now I'm going to test my theory. I have my shelter carefully packaged up and packed into my bag a very specific way so that when I get out to my mountainous adventure and get to my campsite, I have the ability to take my setup and get it strung out and ready really quickly. Now, as I had thought as I was going through this the last time, I knew there were going to be little things I needed. So now I've actually been able to obtain the things that I need to make this a lot more efficient for me. And between the way I've packed it up and now the way I'm going to deploy it and hopefully be able to use it, I think I have myself a very efficient setup. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor. Stay tuned. So as I mentioned, I'm going to take my Koala Full Set setup, get it strung out here, and then I'm going to show you what I have going on, and we'll talk about it in some detail. Now the first thing to note is that I did not bring my tarp. At this point, I have my tarp pretty much in a standard configuration. I have a ridgeline set up, which is going to be no problem, and then I have everything pre-strung and ready to go, so the tarp's not going to be a big deal. But right now, what I really want to do is start working on my hammock. So I'm going to get my straps laid out, get this hammock in position, and then I'm going to move forward getting the underquilt mounted to the hammock itself. Now I'm using the exact same trees as last time because I knew it was a perfect span between them. I found that 18-foot mark was just about perfect, so why mess with a good thing? So that's the first thing I learned, was the span I needed, so setting up between these two trees like last time will be absolutely perfect. So now that I'm working on the setup of my kit, as I mentioned, I have everything a very specific way, and that even includes how I'm going to deploy my hammock. So as I open this up and get it here you will see that I have the black carabiner literally sitting right on top. Now I know the black carabiner is the foot end, and I can decide which orientation I need. Today it doesn't really matter, but it might matter when I get into the mountains. So that's just something for me to be mindful of. So the far tree for me today is going to be the foot end, and closest to the camera right now, that will be the head end. So as you can see, deploying the hammock was quite easy. It went into almost the perfect orientation right away, and that's because I was careful packing it up. That's one of the things that can just make your setup a snap. The more familiar you are with your setup and the more prepared you are going into the camping application, the better off you will be in your setup. So now getting into the underquilt. I'm deciding today not to use the spreader bars. Now I could definitely use the spreader bars, and I have this set up absolutely perfectly to accommodate that, but today I'm just looking to kind of lounge around, and I think when I go into the mountains this time around, I'm not really going to have a problem with bugs, but I am going to have a problem with cold. So because of that, I want this underquilt to be as tight and cocooned around me as possible, so that's how I'm going to set it up today. So again, my setup being critical, you will see that I have these cords hanging out the end. So now all I have to do is go to the carabiners on both ends of this setup and I'll be in good shape. So as you look at how effortlessly I was able to get this installed, and not only installed but centered, and I didn't drag it on the ground. That's another thing. My ability to keep my stuff clean and dry is very important to me. So at this point, the way I have the underquilt mounted is very simple. I took one of the spare ridge lines that is provided with this kit, and I used it basically to connect from one carabiner all the way down to the other carabiner, and that's on both sides of the underquilt. So because the underquilt has loops, I was able to use this pretty much like a ridge line and span from one side to the other. Now what I did was I actually looped in a circle around these little tie outs to make it so that I can tension this, and when it pulls nice and tight, this thing won't go anywhere. So all I need to do at this point is pull these little toggles at the end here, cinch this up, and I'll be ready to get inside. Keeping these reasonably even is important. Now you'll notice that there is a bunch of excess on this bungee. It's my plan basically at this point to do a quick little loop. I'm going to pull this nice and tight up against my tree straps, and that way this can't accidentally pull out of position. So just taking this real quick and looping it up around through my tree straps, and then tying this off with some real simple knots that will easily undo. This thing's not going to go anywhere, and that gives me a little bit of tension to keep the underquilt in place. So left to this actual setup, there are a few additional components. One is there is a pillow. Now the pillow is specifically sized to fit in a couple of sleeves that are fabricated into the inside of the hammock. So taking a real quick look here, you'll see that these sleeves are sewn onto the inside of the hammock, right on the bottom. So this one a little higher up on the head end, this one a little bit lower. Gives you a little bit of versatility. So that pillow I'm talking about basically fits directly inside there, nice and square. Now for me, I typically have at least 2 pillows with me. So it'll be interesting to see if I put those 2 pillows, one in each one of these pockets. But definitely for me, I always put one under my knees. So I would potentially need something a little bit lower down there, but I don't find I have a problem with the pillow I put beneath my knees really falling out of place. It's one of those things, I just kind of deal with it and it doesn't really bother me. And another thing we have here is a nice little lantern. Now this lantern is kind of interesting. I've played with it just a little bit here. This gives you the ability to hang this if you would like. So it's got this little hook here, which is awesome. It's kind of a carabiner style hook. But this is also magnetic, so you could potentially use this on a toolbox or on a car or something like that. So it's definitely a multi-use item. And finally, a tablet sleeve. So this is like a tablet holder that goes on the inside of the hammock. Now, I'm gonna show you real quick, there are some loops that will accommodate this and pretty much allows you, as you're laying down inside there, you do have the ability to hold a tablet. So here on the head end, this is the same sleeve that takes the spreader poles. You will see that tab, and there are 3 of them. So one on each end and also one in the middle, which allows you to basically string a little cord up and over the top, and then that cord is actually stowed away right now inside this pouch. But those loops allow you to take that cord and loop it over the top and then hold that tablet holder right in front of your face, which is a nice location for it. Now personally, I don't think I'll be using that. I don't have a need for that out on the trails, so I'm trying to keep this as minimal as possible. So keeping the weight down as much as I can, going with just the underquilt, going with the hammock itself, which in all reality I could probably unzip this bug net and leave it behind, but I think I'm going to keep it in place just in case I need it. Going with the straps here, and this is pretty much going to be my backpacking shelter system. So then, just keeping in mind the fact that I will have my tarp strung over the top, which is all ready to go. Like I said, I didn't need it today, so I didn't bring it, but that is going to be another very quick setup for me. This took just a matter of minutes now that I have this kind of underquilt situated the way I need it to, and it's very nice where now if I needed to get to the point where I really wanted to just cocoon this thing, I could actually take these zippers, zip this together. I could zip the whole thing up and around me, no problem, make a full cocoon, and that would be very, very warm and toasty. Now, if I don't need the cocoon, this is set up very nice where I could just have an overquilt, so have this hung as an underquilt, grab my overquilt, kind of pull that up around me, and I know I'd have myself a beautiful night's sleep. So now as I climb in, all I really need to do is just duck under this ridgeline a little bit, scoop my butt in here, so going kind of careful. Popping my head right under there. You'll see. Getting myself nice and centered into the hammock. There I have no problem at all. Now I do see that the bug net might fall a little bit on my face if I'm not careful without those spreader bars. So if anything, all I might need to do is make sure that I do include the spreader bars. Now I don't necessarily need them at the foot end, but I think it might be nice to have it at the head end. I do have the ability, the way I have the underquilt strung up, to accommodate the spreader bars, which is a good thing. So that might just be one thing I need to note. So the idea right now that the mosquito net does fall a little bit on my face kind of is potentially an issue, especially if it's buggy. I don't want those little critters being able to get at me. But generally speaking, very comfortable. It's starting to warm up in here very nicely, so that tells me this is going to be a good, suitable, warm shelter. For the most part, it's doing a great job cutting down on the wind. Even with the little bit of wind out here, I don't necessarily feel it, and that's the idea with the underquilt, giving you that good thermal value beneath you where you need it. So now, just unzipping the bug net, all I really need to do is get my feet out, tuck myself right out, and that's easy. So at this point, I feel confident in my setup. I feel like I'm ready to get this thing out into the mountains. So the next time you're gonna see this shelter, I'm gonna be out in the mountains on a backpacking trip. At that point, we'll see what this is like to be a shelter for that application. I feel confident in this. I feel like it's going to be perfectly suitable. Now, I have to admit, this is a little more bulky than some of my other gear. It's a little larger and it's a little bit heavier. So it takes up more volume in my pack and it weighs a little bit more than other potential shelter systems. However, one thing I can say is Crua's gear is made for comfort. So there's one thing I know for sure, and that's I'm gonna have myself a comfortable night's sleep. So again, I'd like to say thank you very much to the people at Crua who have provided this for review. I look forward to getting this out into the mountains, and I will absolutely be filling all of you in how this is for a backpacking shelter system. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.